You will need to be able to trust yourself in order to do anything new or anything different. And you will need to be able to do things differently and do new things in order to create different results in your life. That is just how it works. Welcome to Breakthrough Mode, the podcast where we intentionally get into the driver's seat of our lives, shift out of monotony and mediocrity, and step on the gas towards becoming the person we were always meant to become. Hello and welcome to episode 306 on the Breakthrough Mode podcast. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me and pushing play on today's episode. This week, we have been focused on keeping one little promise to yourself and building that self-trust. Before we get into the tactics that I have for you today, I want to highlight why this is important, why I'm bringing this up. I mentioned on Monday that your self-trust is directly tied to your confidence, but it's also the thing that informs you on what to try. So for start week and continue week, I really encouraged you to start something that has been on your heart. And then, of course, to continue it. Your level of self-trust is going to be a huge indicator on one, whether or not you actually started something, or two, the amount of resistance, inner resistance that you had to starting something. If you thought about starting something and while you were thinking about it, you had a lot of fears and worries about, but will I be able to do this? Am I capable of this? Am I going to be able to follow through? What about all the times I failed in the past? If you had all of that going on in your mind and in your body, it is because of your self-trust. It is because there's a part of you that doesn't trust that you will be able to do what is required, show up consistently, figure it out, that you are good enough or capable. There's something there that was informing your choice to start or not start, and that was actually fueling the resistance and the hesitancy to do so. So when you build self-trust, when you create opportunities where you trust yourself more, you're actually more willing to try something new or to try something adjacent to what you have done before. Because I journal so compulsively, it's not a far leap to feel like I could write a book someday. I already write a lot. I already trust myself to write, to spend the time to write, that the idea of writing a whole book doesn't seem that far off. It actually feels kind of natural. Like I have mastered this one thing in my life, and it feels sort of like a next step. I can write for myself, and now I can write for others. Do you see how I've got this confidence and self-trust in my ability to write, in my ability to make time to write, and how that transfers to something different and new? So this is a really important thing, because when you want to become someone, when there's a life you want to step into, when there's a habit you want to establish, when there's a new accomplishment that you want to have, that is going to require that you do something new, that you do things differently, that you show up in a different way, that you prioritize your time and your energy and your tasks differently. It's going to require you to be able to trust yourself to do the thing, to follow through, to finish it. You will need this part in order to get there. So that is why we are talking about this week. You will need to be able to trust yourself in order to do anything new or anything different. And you will need to be able to do things differently and do new things in order to create different results in your life. That is just how it works. So today, I have 5 ways to make trusting yourself easier, to make building this self-trust easier, to make keeping promises to yourself easier. Because 1, you're going to need this. And 2, I should have said this earlier when I was talking about the benefits of this and why this is important, but also what you think of you is truly, truly important. It is actually more important that you think well of yourself, and not in like an egotistical way, but in a self-love way, than it is for others to think well of you. Because you are with you 100% of the time, and you deserve to love yourself. You deserve to think well of yourself, and you definitely deserve to trust yourself. So the first thing that I want to give you as a way to make building this self-trust and keeping promises to yourself easier is to first let go of the past. We are all human. We have all made mistakes. We have all made promises that we have broken to others and to ourselves. We have all done this. And by carrying those things around, we are not making anything better. We're not making any of those. By carrying those things around, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to move forward. We're just moving forward while having rocks in our pockets, while carrying a weight that isn't helpful and isn't beneficial. Yes, use the past to inform you on how do you want to become better, on the way that you want to do things differently because you don't like how you did things before. Use it that way, but don't use the past as an emotional weight, which is what we usually do. Most of the time, we use the past to beat ourselves up or to provide proof that why we can't do it, why we can't trust ourselves, why we know that we won't be able to follow through, or we won't be able to finish the thing, or we won't be able to show up for it, or whatever. Instead of letting go of the past and just using it to push us to become better, we use the past as proof for why we can't be better. Because we behaved this way, or because we did this way, or because we broke these promises before, then I can't possibly do these things now. And truly, that is not helpful. That is not helpful. Because in order to grow and become better and to be the person you want to be, you need to let go of that weight and extend yourself the opportunity to trust yourself again. And this time you can do things differently. So this one is kind of twofold. The first is to let go of the past as an emotional weight. And the second one, as you are reviewing the past, is to gather all of the evidence that you can find for being able to trust yourself. Because you have done both in the past. You have made promises to yourself and to others that you have kept, and you have made promises to yourself and to others that you have broken. When we're carrying our past around as an emotional weight, we are focused on the ones that we have broken, and we are using that as evidence for our future. Instead, focus on the evidence, the situations in which you kept those promises to others and yourself, and use that as evidence for what you are capable of. Switch your focus when you are looking at the past. Again, yes, use the times that you screwed up as information to be better in the future. But when you are gathering evidence for who you are and what you are capable of, switch your focus from the negative to the positive so that you can create more of what you want to create. If you have a whole bunch of evidence that you can trust yourself, it will be so much easier to then continue trusting yourself. The second tactic that I want to give to you relies on the idea of habit stacking. And this is attach the promise to something that you already do. So a lot of the times we'll make a promise to ourselves and then we'll just forget about it. Like, even if it was super meaningful to us or we had all of the aspirations behind it and everything, we often just get caught up in the busyness of our day, the busyness of our life, and we just forget. I was coaching a client recently and they wanted to journal every day. And it was something that was so out of their routine that they just forgot about it until later that night. And they're like, oh, I didn't journal today. I just completely forgot to even do it. It wasn't about resistance or procrastination. It just didn't even enter their mind. So what I encouraged them to do was every night when they are wrapping things up for the evening to close their laptop and put their journal on top of their laptop. Because in the morning, when they are ready to sit down to work, they will have to touch their journal in order to work, in order to open up the laptop, in order to get started. And just by having the journal placed there gives them the opportunity to keep that promise that they made to themselves. Now, whether or not they keep the promise is still a matter of choice and free will, but we are removing that problem of simply not even thinking about it, not even remembering that that was something that they wanted to do. Because oftentimes that's the hard part. So if on Monday, when I encouraged you to make one promise to yourself for the week, for something every morning this week, if you decided to drink a glass of water first thing in the morning, but every day you forgot until like 10 a.m. and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even drink my glass of water this morning. The problem was likely that you didn't set yourself up for that success the night before. And if you're like, well, gee, Megan, this would have been really valuable to have considered when, you gave us the challenge. Yes, I get that. And this is the tactic episode. This is the teaching episode. And it gives you this opportunity to extend yourself some grace. Because if it's not in your face, if it's not a trigger in your environment, either visibly or audibly, then yeah, forgetting about things, especially new things that you want to introduce into your life, is incredibly easy to do. So this is an opportunity for you to forgive yourself. Tell yourself that now that you know more, you can do better. And going forward, you can use this idea of habit stacking, of attaching your promise to something that you already do, or giving yourself some visual or audible reminders to trigger you into keeping that promise to yourself. But really, what that all is going to do is give you the opportunity to keep the promise to yourself. If the issue has been forgetting, this will give you the opportunity to then choose. Okay, so I kind of ran tactic number 2 and tactic number 3 into one, but here is what I was giving to you. The second one was to attach your promise to something that you already do so that it's there. It's just, you create this natural flow of things. The third one was to set yourself up for success. And this includes removing any kind of friction that you encounter in attempting to keep this promise to yourself. The fourth tactic that I want to give you is to track and celebrate your consistency. This is something that I feel like people don't do enough. When you are tracking the things that you are doing, the things that you want more of in your life, you are more likely to continue to engage in doing that simply because you don't want to break your streak. For this tactic, you can use a calendar or a sticky note or a habit tracker. And as I was writing these notes, I thought about Jerry Seinfeld's "don't break the chain" idea. So he had a calendar, and every day that he wrote jokes, because he was a comedian or is a comedian, every day that he wrote jokes, he would mark an X on the calendar. And you only need two to start making a chain. And then the goal after that was to not break the chain. So that means that you need to continue to show up so that you don't break the chain. The other thing that I love, because sometimes you do need to break the chain. Sometimes you do miss a day. Sometimes things happen, circumstances, whatever, you get sick, somebody comes into town, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes things happen. I also love to have this idea of how many and by when. So I'm still tracking my progress. I'm still tracking the numbers. I'm still making sure that I'm doing it all, but I have a goal of how many I am going to have by when. This gives me a little bit of flexibility. This gives me some grace. This gives me some room for life to do life's thing and be unexpected and throw curveballs without feeling like I'm failing, without feeling like I'm behind. So if you feel like "don't break the chain" is too much pressure or habit trackers are too much pressure, try this idea of how many by when. So I often do this for like my morning routine. So I like to track how many days that I get up and follow through on my morning routine. And of course, I first started this just to establish the habit, but I am continuing to keep track because it's motivating, because I like it, because I think it's fun. And there are days in the year that I am sick. There are days in the year that I don't sleep well or whatever, and I don't get up in the morning. So this is one that I very much have I want to have hit this number of days by the end of the year, and I keep that goal in mind so that no matter what happens, I feel like I can keep moving forward without feeling like I'm failing. The last tactic is this idea of never missing twice. So, like I just said, things happen. Life does life's thing, and we can't control all of the things. So sometimes we miss a day, sometimes we forget, sometimes we're sick, whatever. But do your best to not miss twice. There are two big reasons for this. The first one is that your motivation drops drastically after you miss twice. It's so much harder to get back at it after missing 2 times in a row because that just feels heavy. You get some emotional attachment after missing twice. So it's harder to get back at it on the third time than it would have been to get back at it on the second time. The second thing is that missing twice in a row starts a new habit. Missing once is just missing once. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. Now, it's a young habit, so it's easy to break. It's not something that's set in stone or forever yet. However, you mix that starting a new habit with this drop in motivation, and it creates a whole different chain, one that you likely don't want at all. So, just in review, as you look in the past to see your level of self-trust, look for the evidence of when you did follow through on whatever it is, those promises to yourself or those promises to others, and then let go of all of the times that you broke those promises. Use them as information, but let go of the emotional weight. Then, when you make a new promise to yourself, attach it to something that you already do so that you don't forget, so that it's so much easier to just roll from one thing right into another. This leads us to our third tactic of setting yourself up for success and removing friction. The fourth one is track and celebrate your consistency I know we focused a lot on tracking your consistency, but truly celebrate the milestones. We celebrated episode 300. I have balloons here, if you're watching on YouTube, that Jake put up in my office to celebrate when the 300th episode was published. And it's really fun to celebrate those milestones. So celebrate yourself. The last tactic is to never miss twice. You're building this habit of self-trust, of keeping the promises that you make to yourself. Do that more often than you don't. Try to never miss twice. This one is mostly applicable to when you are building a habit. However, self-trust is a habit. It's just not one that happens at a certain time of day or a certain day of the week. It's a habit of how you show up for yourself. So if you promise yourself you're going to do something, if you tell yourself you're going to do something, do it. Follow through, build that self-trust. Know that no matter what, you can trust yourself to do what needs to be done, to follow through, to finish the thing, to rise to the occasion, to figure it out, because you can. You have before, and you can. You are totally capable of this. Thank you so much for joining me today. I totally love you. Bye for now.